The person staring back at me is almost unrecognizable from the one I used to see just a few years ago. I've lost weight, yes, but the changes go far beyond the physical. The way the world interacts with me has undergone a transformation so profound, it sometimes feels like I'm living someone else's life. I remember vividly what it was like before. The sideways glances, the subtle, and sometimes not so subtle avoidance, the way people's eyes would slide past me as if I were invisible. Public transportation was always an exercise in discomfort, not just physical, but emotional. I'd watch as people would rather stand than take the empty seat next to me, their eyes darting away if I happened to catch their gaze. It was as if my presence was an inconvenience, something to be tolerated but never welcomed. Strangers rarely smiled at me then. I used to think I had a stern resting face, but now I realize it was more than that. It was as if my appearance gave people permission to withhold even the smallest kindnesses. A simple smile, a nod of acknowledgement, these were luxuries not afforded to someone who looked like I did. I tried to compensate with humor and wit, but even that fell flat more often than not. I'd crack jokes in social situations, hoping to break the ice, to show that there was more to me than my appearance. But more often than not, I'd be met with awkward silences or worse, eye rolls. It was as if being overweight had somehow diminished my right to be funny or engaging. Flirting was an exercise in humiliation. On the rare occasions when I worked up the courage to show interest in someone, the discomfort was palpable. People would shift awkwardly, avoid eye contact, or make hasty excuses to leave. It was a clear message: someone like me had no business expressing romantic or sexual interest. At work, my ideas were often overlooked or dismissed. I'd speak up in meetings, offering suggestions or solutions, only to have them ignored. Then minutes later, a slimmer colleague would suggest the same thing and be praised for their brilliance. It was frustrating and demoralizing, to say the least. I began to doubt my own abilities, wondering if perhaps I really wasn't as competent as I thought. But then, everything changed. It started with a decision to lose weight, initially for health reasons. As the pounds began to drop, I noticed small shifts in how people interacted with me. Encouraged, I took it a step further: new clothes, a different hairstyle, a complete makeover. And suddenly, it was as if I had stepped into an alternate universe. The changes were subtle at first. A smile from a stranger here, a friendly nod there. But as my transformation continued, the differences became more pronounced and frankly jarring. Suddenly, my jokes were hilarious. The same quips that once earned eye rolls now had people in stitches. It wasn't that I had become funnier, I was telling the same jokes, with the same delivery. But now, people were actually listening, actually giving me a chance to be entertaining. Flirting took on a whole new dimension. Where once there was discomfort and rejection, now there was receptiveness and even enthusiasm. People started to flirt back, to show genuine interest. It was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. I found myself unsure of how to handle this new attention, having never experienced it before. At work, the change was perhaps the most dramatic and in many ways, the most unsettling. Suddenly, my ideas were brilliant. The same suggestions that had been ignored or dismissed before were now met with enthusiasm and praise. Colleagues who had barely acknowledged my existence were now seeking out my opinion, valuing my input. It was gratifying, yes, but also deeply frustrating. I couldn't help but wonder, had I suddenly become smarter, or had people finally decided I was worth listening to? But perhaps the most jarring change was the physical. People started to touch me casually, a hand on the arm during conversation, a pat on the back, a quick hug in greeting. These small physical connections, which I had rarely experienced before, became commonplace. It was as if my new appearance had granted permission for others to enter my personal space, to connect with me on a physical level. At first, I reveled in these changes. After years of feeling invisible and overlooked, the positive attention was intoxicating. I felt seen, heard, valued in a way I never had before. It was like a drug, and I couldn't get enough. But as time went on, the initial high began to wear off, and a more complex set of emotions took its place. Yes, I enjoyed the positive attention, the ease with which I could now navigate social situations, the opportunities that seemed to open up before me. But with each smile, each laugh, each casual touch, I was reminded of how superficial society can be. I am, at my core, the same person I was before. My thoughts, my feelings, my values, none of these have fundamentally changed. I'm still the same witty, intelligent, compassionate individual I've always been. The only difference is my outward appearance. And yet, the world treats me entirely differently. This realization has been both enlightening and deeply saddening. On one hand, I now have first-hand experience of the privilege that comes with being considered attractive. Doors open more easily, people are more willing to listen and engage, life in general seems to flow more smoothly. It's a stark contrast to the obstacles and dismissals I faced before. On the other hand, I can't help but feel a sense of anger and disappointment. Anger at a society that places so much value on appearance, that judges worth based on such superficial criteria. Disappointment in the people around me, who now treat me with kindness and respect that they withheld before, simply because of how I look. It's a bittersweet realization, one that has fundamentally changed how I view the world and my place in it. I find myself more aware of how others are treated based on their appearance. I notice the subtle and not so subtle ways that people discriminate against those who don't fit conventional beauty standards. And it breaks my heart, because I know exactly how it feels to be on the receiving end of that discrimination. I've also become more conscious of my own biases. Despite my experiences, I sometimes catch myself making snap judgments based on appearance. It's a stark reminder of how deeply ingrained these societal attitudes are, how much work we all have to do to overcome them. In many ways, this transformation has been a gift. It's opened my eyes to aspects of human interaction that I might never have fully understood otherwise. It's given me a unique perspective, a before and after view of how society treats people based on their appearance. But it's also a burden. I carry with me the knowledge of how differently I was treated, the memory of feeling invisible and unvalued. It colors my interactions, makes me question the genuineness of people's interest in me. Are they responding to who I am, or just what I look like? I find myself drawn to the people who treated me with kindness and respect before my transformation. These rare individuals, who saw my worth regardless of my appearance, have become even more precious to me. They are a reminder that true connection goes beyond the superficial, that real value lies in who we are, not how we look. As I navigate this new reality, I'm constantly striving to find a balance. I want to enjoy the positive aspects of my transformation without losing sight of the person I was before. I want to use my experiences to foster empathy and understanding, to challenge the societal norms that place such emphasis on appearance. I've become an advocate for body positivity and inclusivity, using my voice to speak out against discrimination based on appearance. I share my story, hoping that it will make people think twice about how they treat others. I strive to be the person who sees beyond the surface, who values others for their inherent worth rather than their outward appearance. It's not always easy. There are days when I struggle with my own self-image, when the memory of how I was treated before threatens to overwhelm me. There are times when I catch myself enjoying the privileges of my new appearance without questioning them. It's a constant process of self-reflection and growth. But through it all, I hold on to one crucial truth: I am more than my appearance. My worth is not determined by how I look, but by who I am. My experiences have shaped me, have given me a unique perspective and a deep well of empathy. And that, I believe, is far more valuable than any physical attribute. As I finish getting ready for the day, I take one last look in the mirror. The person looking back at me is attractive, yes, but more importantly, she's strong. She's resilient. She's seen both sides of how the world treats people based on appearance, and she's determined to use that knowledge to make a difference. I step out into the world, ready to face whatever it brings. I'll enjoy the smiles, the friendly interactions, the casual touches. But I'll also remember. I'll remember what it was like to be invisible, to be overlooked. And I'll use that memory to see others, to value them, to treat them with the kindness and respect that everyone deserves, regardless of how they look. Because in the end, that's what truly matters. Not the face we present to the world, but the person we are inside. And if my journey has taught me anything, it's that true beauty, true worth, comes from within. It's a lesson I carry with me always, a truth that guides my interactions with others and my view of myself. In a world obsessed with appearances, it's a radical act to value what lies beneath the surface. And that's exactly what I intend to do, every single day.